Welcome to The Awakening, Black Women United. I am your host, Cherry Danny. Subscribe, comment, share, and like. The Black community looked at former President Barack Obama as the second coming of Christ. Do we now know he never had our best interest at heart and used poor Black Chicago as a political stepping stone? Is he now the Antichrist? In 2009, a wave of hope swept across the Black community as Barack Obama was sworn in as the first Black president of the United States. The air was thick with anticipation and excitement. The streets of America echoed with joyous celebrations as the community looked forward to a new era of change and progress. The man who had once served as a community organizer in the South Side of Chicago was now at the helm of the nation. The expectation was that he would use his presidency to address the long-standing issues plaguing Black communities: poverty, unemployment, gun violence, disinvestment. This hope was not unfounded. After all, Obama had campaigned on the promise of change and a better future. He embodied the aspirations of many, particularly the Black community. The belief was that he would bring about a meaningful transformation in the lives of Black Americans, bridging the racial wealth gap and creating opportunities for advancement. However, as the years rolled on, the initial optimism gave way to a growing sense of disappointment. The struggles of the Black community persisted. The poverty rates remained high, unemployment was rampant, gun violence continued to claim lives, and disinvestment in Black neighborhoods was as prevalent as ever. The reality seemed to contrast starkly with the hope that had been kindled in 2009. The change that had been envisioned seemed elusive. The Black community felt a profound sense of disillusionment. The man they had looked up to as a beacon of hope, as a symbol of progress and advancement, seemed unable to bring about the transformation they had anticipated. 8 years on, many in the Black community felt disillusioned as the change they had hoped for did not come to fruition. The presidency of Barack Obama, while historic and symbolically powerful, left many questioning the extent to which it had tangibly improved the lives of Black Americans. The story of hope and disappointment under Obama's presidency serves as a poignant reminder of the complexities of political power and the challenges of effecting meaningful change. While Obama's presidency was marked by historic milestones, the impact of his policies on the Black community was a subject of intense debate. Let's delve into that. Barack Obama's presidency was one for the history books, no doubt. He was the first African American to ever hold the highest office in the land, a significant achievement in a country where racial discrimination is a part of its history. However, the question of how his policies affected the Black community specifically often raises eyebrows and sparks heated discussions. Obama's administration made strides in areas such as healthcare and education, with policies like the Affordable Care Act and the Every Student Succeeds Act. These initiatives, while not exclusively targeting the Black community, certainly benefited many within it. But was it enough? Critics argue that Obama did not do enough to directly address systemic issues that disproportionately affect Black communities. They point to persistent racial disparities in areas like wealth, education, and criminal justice. They argue that despite the historic nature of Obama's presidency, it did not translate to transformative change in the lived experiences of many Black Americans. For instance, the racial wealth gap, a stark indicator of economic inequality, remained largely unchanged during Obama's tenure. Critics argue that Obama's economic policies, while helping the country recover from the Great Recession, did not do enough to address this deeply entrenched problem. Another area of contention was Obama's approach to race relations. Obama often found himself walking a delicate line, trying to address issues of race without alienating other segments of the population. His critics say that this often led to a cautious, measured approach, one that avoided directly confronting systemic racism. We saw this in how Obama addressed incidents of police violence against Black individuals. While he often expressed personal sympathy and called for investigations, he stopped short of calling out systemic racism within law enforcement. This was seen by some as a missed opportunity to bring national attention to a critical issue. But it's important to remember that Obama's presidency was not without its constraints. He faced considerable opposition, often racially charged, from certain quarters of the political landscape. This undoubtedly restricted his ability to push through more radical policies that could have more directly addressed the issues facing Black communities. Nevertheless, the criticism stands. Whether it was due to lack of political will or the constraints of his position, many argue that Obama's policies did not go far enough in addressing systemic issues affecting the Black community. Obama's presidency left a complex legacy for the Black community, one of historic achievement, yet unfulfilled expectations. His tenure was a symbol of how far we've come, but also a reminder of how far we still have to go. It's a story of progress and potential, of milestones and missed opportunities. And as we continue to grapple with these issues, it's a legacy we'll continue to reckon with. Welcome to The Awakening, Black Women United. I am your host, Cherry Danny. Subscribe, comment, share, and like. The Black community looked at former President Barack Obama as the second coming of Christ. Do we now know he never had our best interest at heart and used poor Black Chicago as a political stepping stone? As we look back on Obama's presidency, we must grapple with the complexities of his legacy for the Black community. It's a tapestry woven with threads of hope, pride, disappointment, and debate. The first Black president of the United States, Obama embodied a monumental stride forward, a victory that swelled Black churches with pride and made the notion of a Black president an achievable reality for the younger generation. Yet, the question remains, did his presidency truly address the systemic issues plaguing our communities? There's a spectrum of perspectives within the Black community, each one framing Obama's presidency through a different lens. Some revere him as a trailblazer, a beacon of Black excellence, despite the obstacles he faced from racist obstruction. Others voice disappointment, feeling that the promises of hope and change were not fully realized, that the issues of poverty, unemployment, and violence in our neighborhoods are still pressing and prevalent. Underneath it all lies a deeper discourse about the engagement of Blackness in public life. Obama's presidency sparked a civil discourse within our community. How should Blackness be represented? How should it engage with a system that often seems stacked against it? Obama was undeniably our first Black president, a title he wore with pride. Yet, some argue that his engagement with the backlash against his Blackness was insufficient, that he failed to meaningfully confront the dark undercurrents of racism in America. Perhaps, as some suggest, Obama's reticence was a form of self-defense, a way to navigate the treacherous waters of American politics. But the cost of this reticence was high, leaving many in our community feeling neglected and misunderstood. As we reflect on Obama's presidency, we must ask ourselves, did Obama's presidency bring the change we hoped for, or did it fail to address the systemic issues facing our community? And how do we carry these reflections forward, using them to inform our future, to demand better, to continue striving for progress? This is The Awakening, Black Women United. I'm your host, Cherry Danny. Subscribe, comment, share, and like. The Black community looked at former President Barack Obama as the second coming of Christ. Do we now know he never had our best interest at heart and used poor Black Chicago as a political stepping stone? Is he now the Antichrist,